The wind howled over the Broken Arrow ranch, carrying dust, thunder, and a woman's cry that no man was supposed to hear. Rancher Luke Mallory reined his horse to a halt near the canyon edge, his coat snapping in the gusts. Below, through the swirl of sand and lightning, a riderless horse bolted toward his land, and behind it stumbled a figure, small, struggling, and barefoot in the storm. He rode hard, heart pounding, until he reached her. She was half conscious, drenched from the rain that came with the thunder, clutching a satchel to her chest, as if her life depended on it. Luke slid from his saddle, his boots sinking into the mud. "Easy now," he said, kneeling beside her. Her eyes flickered open, green and wild like the prairie after a storm. "Please, take them off," she whispered, her voice weak but desperate. For a moment Luke froze, confused, until he saw her wrists, bound tight with wire that had cut through the skin. He drew his knife and carefully cut the bindings. When the wire fell away, her hands trembled, her breath broke, and tears mixed with the rain. "Who did this to you?" he asked. "I don't know his name," she gasped. "But he took everything, the wagon, my brother, and said he'd come back for me." Luke's jaw tightened. He lifted her onto his horse and rode through the storm back to the ranch. Inside the cabin, the fire crackled and shadows danced on the log walls. She sat wrapped in a blanket, staring into the flames. He poured her coffee, his eyes soft but searching. "You're safe now," he told her. She looked up, her face pale, eyes shimmering. "You don't understand. He's not just coming for me. He's coming for you too." Luke's hand froze halfway to the cup. Outside, lightning split the sky, illuminating the plains, and for an instant he saw a figure on horseback watching from the ridge. The storm hadn't brought her to him by accident. It brought a warning, and the fight wasn't over. Dawn crept over the desert, painting the sky in streaks of rose and fire. Luke Mallory stood at the fence line scanning the horizon. The woman, who'd said her name was Clara, sat inside the barn, tending to the wounds on her hands. The night had been long, filled with thunder, silence, and the heavy weight of something unspoken. When Luke entered the barn, he found her staring at the satchel she'd carried through the storm. "What's in there?" he asked. She hesitated, then slowly opened it. Inside were papers, land deeds, marked with the seal of the town's banker, Amos Tully. Luke's eyes narrowed. "That land's mine," he said, "and half the valleys." Clara nodded. "He forged the claims. My brother tried to stop him. That's why they came after us." Luke's pulse quickened. He knew Tully was greedy, but not this far gone. "You risked your life to get this here?" he asked. "I couldn't let him destroy another home," she whispered. The weight of her courage struck him harder than any bullet. He took off his hat, ran a hand through his hair, and said quietly, "You've got more grit than half the men I've ever known." Before she could answer, gunshots split the morning. The barn door exploded inward. 3 riders thundered in, dust rising like smoke. Luke shoved Clara behind a stack of hay, drew his rifle, and fired. The echo rolled across the plains. 1 outlaw fell. Another turned tail, but the third kept coming, shouting Tully's name. Luke took cover, reloading fast, but the attacker had the drop on him. Then Clara stepped out, holding Luke's revolver. Her hands shook, but her eyes were steady. "You're done," she said. The man hesitated, sneered, and raised his gun, but she fired first. The shot rang out sharp and final. When the smoke cleared, the only sound was the wind through the open barn. Luke stared at her. The trembling woman who had stumbled into his life now stood unbroken. "You saved my life," he said softly. She looked at the gun in her hands, then at him. "You gave me a reason to fight back." Luke took a step closer, voice low. "You're not alone anymore, Clara." She smiled faintly, tears glimmering. "Neither are you." The two stood in the doorway as the sun rose higher, the land stretching wide and free again. Justice had come to Broken Arrow Ranch, and with it, something neither of them expected: hope.